Ireland. Watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening and welcome to GBN Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Coming up on the show, as Britain's second city comes to terms with yesterday's chilling synagogue terror attack, we'll take you to Manchester for the very latest. And elsewhere, the Green Party conference kicked off today, but so did a group of female party members who allege they've been banned for their gender-critical views. Is Britain's wokest party guilty of sex discrimination? And the first ever female Archbishop of Canterbury has been appointed. A sign of societal progress, perhaps, or another step away from the traditions of the church. We've got a really big show planned for you this evening and all of that to come. But first, your news with Sophia Hill.
Alex, thank you. Very good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock. These are your top stories. Breaking earlier on this evening, sources say that the terrorist, Jihad al-Shami, was on police bail for an alleged rape when he carried out the Manchester synagogue attack. Meanwhile, crowds earlier on heckled the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy during the vigil that took place in Crumpsall.
Palestine! Shame on you! Shame on you! Go to Palestine! Leave us alone!
Adrian Dalby have described him as a hero who tragically lost his life using the courage to save others. The attacker, who's responsible for the killings, was a 35-year-old British citizen of Syrian descent, and he was shot dead at 7 minutes after the police were called to the scene. He came to the UK as a young child and was granted British citizenship in 2006 as a minor. Yesterday's events did not stop pro-Palestine protests going ahead across the nation last night, as the Met Police are calling for such rallies to be cancelled. Elsewhere, Dame Sarah Mullally has been named as the next Archbishop of Canterbury, the first time a woman has been appointed at this role in the Church of England's history. In a speech this morning, she described the Manchester synagogue terror attack as horrific and warned that hatred and racism of any kind cannot be allowed to tear us apart. The announcement comes almost a year since Justin Welby resigned from the role as spiritual leader of the Church of England due to a damning review into its handling of a sexual abuse scandal. In her first words since confirmation of her appointment, she said that while the role is a huge responsibility, she feels a sense of peace and trust in God to carry her. And actress Dame Patricia Routledge has died at the age of 96.
My name is Bouquet. B-U-C-K-E-T. No, it's not bucket, it's bouquet.
She was best known for her role in the comedy TV show Keeping Up Appearances, the show which captivated audiences in the 1990s and attracted as many as 13 million viewers at its peak. Her versatility, a word that she did not relish because it implied, she said, not being very good at anything, took her career far beyond the range of TV sitcoms. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour, but now it's back to Alex.
Thank you, Sophia, and welcome to GBN Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. And as you all know, Britain's second city is tonight coming to terms with yesterday's terror attack on a synagogue in which 2 Jewish worshippers sadly lost their lives on what was the holiest day of their holy calendar, Yom Kippur. Well, GB News reporter Will Godley has been at the scene of the attack and brings us this report.
Well, more than 24 hours on from that horrific attack here yesterday morning, the police behind me are still continuing their investigations here at the scene of that attack. They've also been searching the attacker's home today. That is Jahid al-Shami, his home not too far away from here, where we understand he's been living for a number of years now. He, of course, came over from Syria when he was a little boy, now aged 35 years old. Back in 2006, when he was 16 years old, he was granted British citizenship, and he's been living here, a member of this community ever since. But as the police continue their investigations into who exactly this attacker was, we do now understand that he was on police bail for an alleged rape when he carried out this attack here yesterday. That's news just into us. Police continuing their investigations. They've also arrested 3 other people as part of their investigations into this attack. Behind me, people leaving they're leaving tributes, flowers, messages of support for a community here that's grieving as the Shabbat here begins this Friday evening.
Well, joining me now to talk about this story more is Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group Against Anti-Semitism, Joannie Reid MP. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't really know where to start. This story has really terrified so many in the Jewish community. I'm a born and bred Londoner from northwest London. A lot of my friends are Jewish. Many of them texted me saying they're scared for their lives, they're scared to go out. Yesterday, the Prime Minister pledged to do everything he could to keep Jewish people safe. But the same evening, we saw 40 arrests in London and hate marches, what I would call them, throughout many cities across the country. Do you think the Prime Minister's doing enough?
Firstly, I think it's really important that the Jewish community feels supported and acknowledged at this time. So it's an incredibly dark time for them. So our thoughts and our prayers are with the whole of the Jewish community across the UK. They have been living in fear for some time now, particularly over the last couple of years. I think that the Prime Minister and the government has done a huge amount to try and support the Jewish community, but obviously more work needs to be done. I don't think you can underestimate the scale of the challenge in this area. Anti-Semitism is at record high levels, and you can see it in all aspects of life, not just on the marches. They were extremely unfortunate, and I was very saddened to see those scenes last night. It will not reassure the Jewish community at all. But I'm confident that once the facts become clear of exactly what's happened, and we have cool heads and calm minds, that we can find a way forward that will get to grips with this problem once and for all.
Yeah, I thank you for those good, nice words there. But unfortunately, today, we were all waiting. I was waiting for the Prime Minister, for the Home Secretary, for Yvette Cooper, David Lammy, Sadiq Khan to come out and condemn that protest last night in central London. They were very quick to condemn the Unite the Kingdom rally. 25 people arrested, hundreds of thousands of people attending that. Last night, we saw 40 people arrested for violence on the same night as a terrorist attack against Jewish people, nonetheless. And all the Home Secretary had to say was that she was disappointed. It's been complete silence from Downing Street. No public statements, no podiums. It's beyond disappointing. I think the Jewish community had a right to heckle David Lammy today. What is it? Where is this tough action that the Prime Minister's pledging? It doesn't make sense, does it?
Well, it's not clear at the moment exactly whether the powers the Home Secretary has to stop these protests. I actually think you're directing your fury at the wrong people. We and those of us who work in anti-Semitism and have been for some time have been trying to convince the organisers of these protests, and they have been going on for some time, to condemn anti-Semitism and to train their stewards so that they recognise and can tackle any anti-Semitism that they see, whether it's chants, whether it's on placards, and they have point blank refused to do it. Now, you know as well as all of your viewers that there's a fine line between free speech and hate speech, and that's very tricky for any government to navigate, but it's not for the organisers. And while they absolutely have a legal right to protest, there is a moral and ethical question here, and so I suppose I agree with some of the sentiment of what you're saying, but I don't think it's a simple answer for the government, because they've got to balance these rights.
Well, I understand the element of free speech, and I've been very supportive actually of free speech in this country. I even supported some of the Palestine Action people. I didn't believe they should be arrested, but my tune is changing on that, because I think we do need to actually start being a little bit tougher. My question really was, where is the condemnation of those protests last night? I haven't seen the Prime Minister release a statement. 40 people arrested. You know, nothing, absolutely nothing from the Prime Minister. Is he letting the country down?
I don't think he's letting the country down. No, he was in Manchester and he was showing solidarity.
It stinks of bigotry.
I've spoken to a lot of people across the Jewish community who I've worked with for years and years since Corbyn was leader of the Labour Party. What they want at the moment is support, is comfort, and for us to stand up and say that we will fight anti-Semitism wherever we see it. 40 arrests were made, which shows that the system is working to a certain degree. But making this all about the protests, I think, is kind of missing the point. The problem is much deeper than that, and I think that oversimplifies things. Why are these people protesting? Where are they getting their ideas from? Is it from social media? Is it from schools, universities? The problem, if we're really going to tackle anti-Semitism, which is a problem that's been a scourge for thousands of years, then we're going to have to think more seriously than just how you police protests, which I think is a valid point, and there's a discussion to be had, but it's not an easy answer. Right. And I think the Prime Minister has done the right thing by focusing on supporting the Jewish community at the moment, in this moment of huge grief.
Unfortunately, I agree with many of the sentiments you're making there, but I think it's exposed a hell of an amount of bigotry on the Labour front bench today, where we've had zero public declarations, zero letters, zero podiums condemning far-left thuggery on the streets, when we had it for far less arrests just a few weeks ago. And unfortunately, I think many people will be looking at that and going, this is extremely disappointing a day after a terrorist attack against Jewish people, when that protest was really, in my opinion, extremely anti-Semitic. But we'll have to disagree on that point there, unfortunately. Joni Reid MP, thank you for joining me, Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group Against Anti-Semitism. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'll bring in my panel here. I've got Chairman of Global Britain UK, Aman Bogle, and journalist and political commentator Matthew Stadlen. Aman, I'll come to you, because I was really expecting today the Prime Minister and the Labour Party had an opportunity to prove to this country that they're fair, that they're fair and they're firm. The Prime Minister yesterday morning said he would do everything he can to protect Jewish people. I've got Jewish friends coming from quite a Jewish area of northwest London, where I was born, who are terrified. And to see those protests happening, many of them with jubilation last night, some of the disgusting videos, and the Prime Minister today couldn't even come out and condemn those protests.
Indeed, I think this is absolute genus-faced hypocrisy from the Prime Minister down throughout the whole cabinet. But look, today is a day, I think, when we needed a Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. And what we got is a self-avowed daughter of Kashmir, Shabana Mahmood. Right, we've got a London mayor, a failed Labour London mayor who's AWOL. Where is he in all of this? He could have stopped all of this. We have a Home Secretary who has spent years pushing sectarian activism. And we have a Prime Minister who was only praised by Hamas last week for recognising a state of Palestine that doesn't exist, rewarding terror. So what can British Jews expect from this bunch?
Well, Matthew, I think this is my point. It stinks of bigotry, what we've seen today. Well, the silence stinks of bigotry. You know, the Prime Minister, Sadiq Khan, the Labour front bench was so quick to come out and condemn the thuggery we saw at the United Kingdom rally, people attacking the police, which I strongly condemn, anyone attacking the police. But today it's been complete crickets.
I'm surprised, actually, that you haven't come to me first, because as far as I know, I'm the only person who has Jewish identity on the panel. I'm also disappointed that you were lecturing a woman who dedicates quite a significant chunk of her life in the fight against anti-Semitism.
She thinks the Prime Minister's doing a good job, Matthew.
Let me make the point. You were hectoring, in my view, an interviewee who is literally trying to make the world a better place.
But it's not working.
Jews.
It's not working, Matthew.
And you are now accusing the Prime Minister of not standing up to the marches we saw yesterday. The Prime Minister is himself married to a Jewish woman. He is bringing up his own children in the Jewish faith.
So what? So what?
And the Home Secretary herself said today that the marches yesterday, that the protests yesterday, were un-British.
So what?
You didn't mention that at all.
Well, she said it was disappointing and un-British.
She's the Home Secretary, and she's right, it was un-British. I think those protests yesterday, given what had taken place, were disgraceful. We have to be incredibly careful in this country to protect free speech. So, for example, I thought it was absolutely right that Tommy Robinson march was able to go ahead in London with an estimated 150,000 people. Where there was criminality, the police would have stepped in. Where there was criminality yesterday, the police stepped in. There is a difference between extremely poor taste and un-British behaviour, and I agree with the Home Secretary. That's what we saw. Let me finish the point. I agree with the Home Secretary in the way she described that yesterday. There's a difference between that and criminality. We've got to be very careful that we don't start criminalising protests. Did I think that those marches were in terrible taste and that they represented disgraceful scenes? And where there was criminality, the full force of the law should come down? Absolutely.
Well, I don't think you answered my point.Here is the Prime Minister today? Where is Sadiq Khan? Where are all these people who are so quick? The Prime Minister went to visit the
synagogue
But where's his condemnation?
He went to the synagogue yesterday to show solidarity with Jewish people.
Matthew, I don't buy it. I think it's nonsense. I think you're defending an indefensible. He came out very quickly. He's got an office of people working for him. They could have drafted a letter, a public letter. Hang on, let me finish. Let me finish. He could have drafted a letter. His team could have drafted a letter that said, I utterly condemn the protest that took place last night. Crickets. Absolute crickets. Yeah, he can do it for a bunch of people when they were out protesting with the flag. A terrorist attack hadn't even occurred. I'm sorry, it is not good enough. The Prime Minister, it looks like a bigot.
Look, it's quite simple, Alex. If the Home Secretary believes these protests last night were un-British, then what place have they got in Britain? If you want to free Gaza, then go to Palestine. If you want to free Kashmir, go to Pakistan. What on earth are you doing here? But more importantly, if it is un-British, is she going to stand up and admit that she was un-British 10 years ago?
You think that people who want to free Palestine, you think people who are opposed to what Israel is doing in Gaza should go and live abroad? That's one of the most bigoted things I've ever heard.
What's bigoted about it? What's it got to do with us?
Because, what do you mean what's it got to do with us? Everyone in this country, there's 70 million of us, have every single right to express a view, just as you do. You're expressing bigoted views.
Can I just say?
It is absolutely the right of people in this country to think that what is going on in Gaza is a disgrace.
I tell you what is right. What is the right of the British people? And that is not to be blown up and murdered in their own towns and cities.
Correct.
By jihadists.
Correct.
OK?
Correct.
Right?
Both are true.
Right, both are true.
Both are true.
Both are true.
We have a right not to be blown up, and we have a right to think that what's happening in Gaza or anywhere else in the world is unacceptable.
What do you think?
That's not an intellectually challenging thing to process.
What do you think these hate marches promote? When they sing genocidal songs.
One at a time.
No. Let me finish.
You've asked me a question.
Let me finish.
Was it a rhetorical question, or do you want me to have to give you the answer?
Let me finish.
One last word to you, then pass it over to me.
When they sing genocidal songs to murder Jews, what do they promote?
Anyone who sings a genocidal song, from whatever faith or whatever background they come from, needs to have the law thrown at them.
Is that
simple?
But does that happen? Does that happen?
Simple.
Does that happen?
Where there is criminality, the police. Where there's
on a terror list.
All right, hang on a second.
The police need to crack down on it.
Because, listen, there have been multiple occasions where I'm looking at this here. This is the 5 powers of practice prohibiting protest marches. Data on the use of Section 13 banning orders to prohibit protest marches are not routinely made available. However, for a Freedom of Information request in 2014 that shows between 2005 and 2012, the Home Office approved 12 banning orders. So Shabana Mahmood isn't being completely honest when she doesn't have the power to do this. She does. She could have put a banning order to stop that protest from taking place last night. Instead, all she said was that it was un-British and disappointing. When the Prime Minister comes out and says he's going to do everything he can, he's not doing everything he can.
Sorry. Are you saying that we should just simply ban marches?
On the night of a terrorist attack? On the night of a terrorist attack?
Not if it's illegal. No, I've just made the distinction, Alex.
No.
There is a distinction, and it's a vital distinction to make. Particularly, I would have thought, on a channel that supposedly champions free speech. The distinction is clear. Tastelessness is not against the law. I've already described those protests yesterday as un-British and tasteless.
I'm not saying
it doesn't mean,
I'm
hang
not
on,
saying
no, it doesn't mean that they break the law. And I don't want a Home Secretary banning peaceful protests. Where it's not peaceful, the full force of the law needs to be thrown at those people.
My point wasn't that, Matthew. My point was that the Home Office do have power to stop protest, and as we saw last night, they were violent, and as we've seen before,
they were arrested. There were arrests, weren't there?
But they could have been stopped.
40 arrests.
Yes, it could have. The point I'm saying is the Home Secretary is saying she didn't have the power.
I don't know what her powers are.
Right, well, I just explained it.
I don't know what her powers are, but what I will tell you is if you start saying you were banning certain marches, you've got to ban other marches as well.
I said the ones last night should not be going ahead.
It was perfectly predictable there might have been violence on the Tommy Robinson march. That didn't mean I think it should be banned in advance.
OK.
Let's break this down. It's a very simple thumb rule. Yesterday, quite bizarrely, was also the International Day of Non-Violence. It was Mahatma Gandhi's birthday. Now, I have this thing called the Gandhi test. If you're doing a peaceful protest, the test of that should be the people you're protesting against should feel safe walking through that protest. What you're saying, Matthew, is that British Jews, their rights are less than the people who want to protest and spew hate on our streets.
Utter nonsense.
What do you mean utter nonsense? Would a British Jew feel safe walking through that hate march last night? Answer my question.
I will answer your question. Don't point your finger at me. Because I'm sorry, I'm not going to have fingers pointed at me the day after an anti-Semitic attack. No, just be quiet for a moment.
Let Matthew finish.
Do not point your finger at me.
You're not going to tell me to be quiet when I'm the one getting it.
Gentlemen, I'm going to break this up, all right? It's getting too hot in here, all right? Let's cool this down. Let's cool this down.
You just stop defending hate march. You just stop defending the hate march.
Stop. I'm putting a stop to this debate right now, OK, both of you. It's getting too heated, OK? We have to show respect for the audience and respect for each other on my shows. We can disagree, but we can disagree respectfully. Let's get back to what we're talking about.
It's an important question.
Okay? It's an important question.
Jews need to feel safe in their city, right? As do ethnic minorities of every identity need to feel safe. Some ethnic minorities definitely did not feel safe, because I've spoken to them, as a consequence of that Tommy Robinson march. I know that...
I walked through it.
Are you going to allow me to finish? Because that's when I get upset.
Please finish.
If I can't finish my points, I have fingers pointed at me.
Please finish.
Some Jews, no doubt, do not feel safe around those marches. That is not a good thing, as it is not a good thing that some ethnic minority people feel unsafe around the Tommy Robinson march. These are very difficult things to balance. That's why I draw the line at criminality. If there is any criminality on any of those marches, it needs to have the full force of the law thrown at it. But we have to be incredibly careful in this country to protect free speech.
Yes, we're going to leave it there. I do agree with that. I have actually made points on this show many, many times that I don't agree with people being arrested for free speech. I totally agree. I think that not only was the taste yesterday absolutely disgusting, beyond disgusting, but I believe the Home Secretary should have used everything in her power, like the Prime Minister promised. This is where we disagree, that to stop the protest from happening yesterday. Just think it was utterly disgraceful, and I think the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary should have stepped in. That's my point. Anyway, listen, we have to wrap it up there. GB News, we obviously love what you think, and every day we're running our poll of the day. And today we're asking, is the government doing enough to protect British Jews? You just heard a very heated debate here. We're going to bring the temperature down a little bit. But you can scan the QR code on your screen now to vote. And for all our latest polls and news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll. All right, coming up tonight, the Green Party have banned a women's rights group from their conference. Green Women's Declaration think they are a victim of discrimination for promoting sex-based rights. Have they been discriminated against by their very own party? All of that and more on a lot less heated show after the break.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We've got a little bit calmer now. We're all friends again here, all right? A group of women's rights campaigners have been banned from the Green Party conference, and they're claiming they're victims of discrimination. The Greens Women's Declaration, who advocate for sex-based rights for women, were told 2 days before the conference that their stall booking was cancelled and that they would not be allowed to recruit members. Zach Polanski, the new Green Party leader, says that the party's policy would remain that transgender people should be able to identify as whatever gender they want. The Green Party is understood to have claimed the cancellation was because the GWD would not sign a stall holder agreement. So a bit of interesting conflict there in the stories. But joining me now is Maya Forstater, the Executive Director of Sex Matters. Maya, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really interesting, isn't it? Because the Green Party, from what I can remember for at least the last decade or so, have been the party of inclusion, of lots of ideas. And we've even got criticisms of them. I can't remember exactly who it was from, but somebody said that they're turning into left-wing authoritarians, that they want to actually just enforce an ideology. And they've always been very pro-feminism before. Is this a change of direction for the Greens?
They've been going this way for quite a few years. They've thrown out dozens and dozens of members, and they're being sued by several of their own ex-members. So this is it's not brand new, but they've just been going down a rabbit hole of that's taken them away from what they should be doing, which is the environment, saving the planet, animals, climate, and instead they're scared of a bunch of middle-aged women with leaflets.
Yeah, it's really surprising to hear this about the Greens, because I always thought they were the ultimate progressives, but perhaps that is where the left are these days. I don't understand, perhaps you can help me, but what is the big point of derision between the Greens and these gender-critical women? Is it that the gender-critical women are not accepting of trans rights, or is it that actually they disagree on the ability to define one's gender?
Well, they're standing up for women's rights. Anyone can say whatever gender they want to be. The question is, do other people have to pay any attention to that? And do other people have to think that that replaces someone's sex? And the women of the Green Women's Declaration say that it doesn't. People can dress how they like, use whatever pronouns they like, but that doesn't change their sex. And when it comes to things like women's sports, women's prisons, women's refuges, anything that's there for women, for women's rights, shouldn't be undermined by this attention to gender.
Indeed. Worrying trends in some political parties where they aren't able to take some form of debate amongst themselves, it seems. We saw, of course, the Liberal Democrat Party is having a similar issue. I think that was sort of the hangover the night before, where Ed Davey couldn't define or ask, when he was talking about transgender rights, he wasn't really able to define what a woman is. And the same issues that we've seen played out over the years, maybe perhaps resolved in parties like the Conservative Party are being played in other parties now. Do you think that this is a trend where political parties are less willing to have these conversations now and are sort of falling into one bucket or the other, and therefore gender-critical women are no longer welcome?
I mean, you say gender-critical women, but this is the position of most people in the country.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm using that word, actually. I'm sorry. It's just got stuck in my head now. It's really poor. I'm clearly reading too much propaganda. I mean, women who just believe that women are women.
Yeah, and men, frankly.
And men, true.
I think, the Green Party is making itself into a fringe concern by standing up against science and against just the law and what most people, what everyone believes and most people take seriously. I mean, I don't think there's anyone who thinks that sex isn't real. There are just people who think that it's polite or progressive or a good idea to pretend that it's not. And the Greens are throwing people out on the basis that they're saying that women are female and women have rights.
Yes.
It's a tragedy for them, I think, and they could go bust given the number of lawsuits that are against them.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. I hadn't even considered that, actually, Maya. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me. Maya Forstater there, the Executive Director of Sex Magazine. Thank you for pulling me up on using words like gender critical. I don't know how I've slipped into it. It's terrible, isn't it? This is how it gets you. The woke mind virus is infiltrating me. Repel. I want to bring back in my panel here, Chairman of Global Britain UK, Aman Bogle, and journalist and political commentator Matthew Stadlen. Aman, I'll start with you because we saw also a Labour Party conference and Reform and the Tories as well, people sort of not being let in to their party conferences because of maybe beliefs they held. We saw, in fact, a popular panellist on this show.
My friend Matthew Torbett.
Matthew Torbett, of course, wasn't allowed into
last minute thrown out Labour Party. I think it was disgraceful. I mean, he's one of their most ardent supporters and campaigners for a long time. And I think what we need to see with the Green Party, though, is I think somebody needs to send them a dictionary to look up the meaning of two words, what a woman means and what democracy means, because they clearly don't understand the meaning of either.
Yeah, it's just absolutely fascinating. It really is. Matthew, I'll go back to that point about political parties. I feel like we've been warned many times by people that we're slipping into authoritarianism and that we're not welcoming alternative opinions. Obviously, as you can see on this show, we all have very different and strong opinions with each other, and we often disagree very loudly. But we welcome it. We welcome it because people at home are allowed to see two sides of an argument and they can decide whether they agree or disagree with us. If we don't have that at these party conferences, what's the point of them? Is it just there to sort of be an echo chamber?
I think obviously parties are allowed to invite who they want to their conferences. I mean, the name is on the tin, as it were, right? But I would be very slow if I were running a political party. I've never been to a party conference myself, but I would be very slow to ban people.
Yeah.
So I think we've heard this week, haven't we, that Owen Jones was excluded after a period at the Labour Party conference. Matthew Talbot, who's I think a contributor on this channel, isn't he?
Yeah.
And now we're hearing about this particular group. What I think is totally understandable is if a party thinks that people are going to turn up and say bigoted things of whatever nature at other individuals, then that's something that they've got a responsibility to be very careful indeed about. On the issue of trans rights and the debate that has been raging for so long, I've always thought that the toxicity on all different sides has been absolutely appalling. It's perfectly reasonable to protest or campaign for sex-based rights. It's also perfectly reasonable to protest and campaign for trans rights. And where I would draw the line is where someone points the finger at another human being and misgenders them. So if I were a trans woman and I'd gone through various procedures and so forth, and someone described me as man, I think that would be abusive. I'm not saying it would necessarily break the law, but it would be abusive, and it's something that I would condemn.
Fair enough. We saw the Supreme Court obviously have made these, at least made quite strong statements about what a man is and what a woman is, and
common sense
in the law.
statements, I would say.
Well, yes, and many political parties, including the Prime Minister, has of course, come under fire for not being able to define these things in the future. In the past, are we getting to a future where actually we're going to have to go through this all over again, on maybe perhaps that actually, it's never going to be a point now where we can return to the sort of way things were?
No, I think we will, Alex. I think, look, we are probably about 4 years behind the US. We saw President Trump come in, and one of the first things he did was, say, look, you have only two genders, you have a man and a woman. And that was not just spoken out loud, it was turned into legislation as well. It shouldn't have to be, but it did. I think the same will happen in the UK once we get rid of this awful Labour government who cannot define a woman. Let's be honest, the bottom line here is it always turns out to be about women's rights. And that's what it should be, not about, certainly after 100 years, of women winning their
we should be sticking up for women's rights. We should be sticking up for trans rights. And where there is a clash, that's where it gets very complicated indeed. But we know that the trans community, which is a tiny minority in this country, can be extremely vulnerable. And I, for one, who support women's rights, also support trans rights and support the dignity of men, women, trans men and trans women.
Yeah, there we go. I suspect this debate isn't going away anytime soon, actually. It's claimed many friendships. We saw Emma Watson the other day on a podcast for the first time in years talking about her massive fallout with J.K. Rowling. These are issues that really are dividing people. Just whatever you might think, there's never such thing as a done issue these days, is it? And there we go. Apologies again for using words like gender critical. It's just so on me, but there we go. You just end up saying these things, don't you? That's how it works. Anyway, going up on the show after the break, following the horrific terrorist attack yesterday on a Manchester synagogue, we'll be getting the latest updates for you. We're also asking you this: is the government doing enough to protect British Jews? You can scan the QR code on your screen right now and vote. For all our latest polls, you can go to gbnews.com/poll, and I'll see you in just a few moments.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Storm Amy is crossing the UK as we speak, passing northern Scotland and bringing its strongest and most damaging wind gusts to much of Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland through the night time and into much of Saturday. You can see how tightly packed the isobars are as Storm Amy makes its way across the north of Scotland. Spells of rain pushing through the whole of the UK. For many parts, 50 to 60 miles an hour wind gusts are expected overnight, along with a spell of heavy rain. But it's across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, North and West Wales, where gusts could exceed 70 miles an hour in exposed spots. And especially for the west and north of Scotland overnight, we're looking at wind gusts of 100 miles an hour for the Western Isles and 85 miles an hour for the northeast of Scotland during Saturday as Amy pulls away. That accompanied by heavy rainfall continuing to stream into much of Scotland, with large accumulations expected across the Northwest Highlands in particular. Northern Ireland seeing a wet and windy start, Northern England as well. And for much of the south, we're going to see showers interspersed by brighter spells, but very blustery out there, 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So it's a windy day on Saturday for the whole of the UK, but by this stage, the strongest winds and the biggest impacts are expected across the Northern Isles into parts of Caithness, parts of Aberdeenshire as well. That's where wind gusts could reach 70 to 85 miles an hour. The strong wind from the northwest will feel cold out there, temperatures dipping compared to the last few days, and there'll be frequent showers feeding in. Similar on Sunday, but we're starting to see it calm down at this stage. Amy pulls away, still a strong breeze from the northwest, still feeling on the cold side, still some showery rain around, but nowhere near as unsettled as the next 24 hours. And then into next week, we've got a westerly breeze, but it's not looking quite as stormy.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to GBN Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, Greater Manchester Police has said that one of the victims killed in yesterday's devastating synagogue terror attack was hit by police gunfire as they shot the terrorist. The force has said one of the victims has a wound consistent with a gunshot injury, which may have been sustained as a tragic consequence of the police officer's actions. 3 people remain in hospital, with one also being treated for a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. We're now going to cross to Manchester and GB News national reporter Will Godley, who has the latest.
Here in Crumpsall, hundreds of people from the community turned up to stand united in their grief and reflect on the tragic attack that took place yesterday at a vigil earlier on this afternoon. They were standing as a community supporting one another, but when David Lammy took to the stage, their voices were heard across the country. They were booing the Deputy Prime Minister because they view him as someone who doesn't stand by them. He addressed them on stage as friends. People shouted back, "We are not friends with you." They also said, "You have blood on your hands," and they were shouting back, "Stop the marches," in response to a pro-Palestinian march that took place yesterday and more planned for this weekend. And earlier on, I spoke to some of the people at the vigil as to why they felt they wanted to send that message to David Lammy.
I won't lie to you, we're scared, anxious. Parents with children like myself, we worry for our children. For them to have to grow up to know that there's a part of the community which can do something like this is terrifying as a parent. I'm saying one that was injured trying to lock the doors was a good friend of mine from school.
Well, tragically, of course, we know that the police have said as they were trying to stop the attack yesterday morning, 2 people were unfortunately shot by the police as they were trying to bring that attack to an end. One of them lost their life as a result of that attack, and that was Adrian Dalby, we believe, and his family have released this statement this evening paying tribute to him. They said Adrian Dalby was a hero and tragically lost his life in the act of courage to save others. He will forever be remembered for his heroic act on Thursday, the 2nd of October 2025. Adrian was one of the brave worshippers attending the synagogue at the time of the incident and prevented the attacker from gaining access to the premises. Well, that's how his family are remembering him as Shabbat starts here in Manchester and across Britain here this Friday evening, as Jews will be coming together emotional, grieving and upset as the police investigation behind me continues and people continue to leave flowers to pay their respects to those 2 men who were tragically killed in yesterday's attack.
That was Will Godley there. Well, look, when we look at the series of events that took place, lots of questions here. I think we'll start, first of all, with the feeling in the Jewish community, Matthew, because, of course, we've seen an outpouring of grief. We've seen anger aimed at David Lammy today. Jewish people are obviously, rightfully devastated.
So we got caught up in the marches earlier, which has become a hot topic again on social media. But what I'd like to say is that clearly many Jews in this country are scared, and understandably so, because if members of your community are brutally murdered when they are doing nothing but going about their daily business, going on the holiest day of the year to their place of worship, that is a very frightening thing to happen. And in fact, as soon as I heard of this terror attack yesterday, I went to synagogue because although I'm not religiously Jewish, I am half Jewish. My wife, as it happens, this week was in Vienna, where she took my 8-month-old daughter to the flat where my great-great-uncle was the first, or among the very first, to be murdered by the Gestapo when the Nazis marched into Austria. So we, in our family, have very deep scars from anti-Semitism. And it doesn't matter whether the anti-Semitism comes from the far right or whether it comes from Islamist fascists. It's anti-Semitism, and it needs to be called out every single time. What I would say is that the answer to these sorts of Islamo-fascist attacks. We've seen them now against Jews in this country, but we've also seen them again indiscriminately in the past. The answer is not to turn in on ourselves. Yesterday, one of the first people to call me was one of my closest friends who's a Muslim to check in on me, as I had checked in on him at a time of an Islamophobic attack. We have to remember that we are neighbours and that there are actually very close bonds between members of the Muslim community, religious community, and Jewish community. It is a road to nowhere if we turn in on ourselves.
Absolutely. I agree with many of the sentiments there, Matthew. Aman, I want to talk to you about police actions yesterday, because obviously innocent member of the public has died. We don't know whether it's a result of the gunshot or other wounds. We do know there's another member of the public, of course, one of the worshippers there, who, of course, did sustain a gunshot wound, but not life-threatening, thankfully. The police have now been reported themselves to their IOPC, just to be investigated as a result of these actions. Do you think the police have done well, done a good job?
Look, Alex, first of all, I agree with a lot of sentiments, what you just said, Matthew. I think the country does need to be together. Communities do need to stand together, of course, and far more needs to be done from the government to help the British Muslim community deal with radicalisation within their community. But going back to what you're saying about the police, Alex, look, be it yesterday, be it Southport, be it the Manchester Arena, be it London Bridge, be it Westminster Bridge, be it 7/7, 21/7, all of these places, the police have had always a very difficult job to do, right? And sometimes, tragically, unfortunately, these things do happen in terms of, in line of duty, in split-second decisions that police officers have to make dealing with jihadists. And that's the bottom line here. They shouldn't be having to deal with jihadists in the UK in the first place. And that's a problem that I think the political class, the establishment elite, haven't got to grips with for far too long.
Yeah, I'll just say, because we have to leave it there, unfortunately. We've run out of time. But I think the police acted with great integrity. They responded extremely quickly to this, by the way.
And our intelligence services, by the way, are on this every single minute of every single hour of every single day.
Yes, indeed.
And rightly so.
And I think that them taking the shot, if it's my decision, I'm the IOPC, I think they did a fantastic job. And you have to do these things. He was wearing a bomb, by the looks of what anyone else thought. You had to take that shot, otherwise more people could have died. So, heroes for stepping in and doing so. Coming up tonight, Dame Sarah Mullally has been named the new Archbishop of Canterbury, but is she the Archbishop of Woke instead? Of course, she is the first woman to ever take up the post. Some have said this marks a key turning point in the history of the Church of England. So how big of a deal is it, and has the Church of England gone completely woke? See you shortly.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow across southern parts of Europe, and there is a lot of fine weather around, but not everywhere. The same band of rain that's been sweeping through today across the UK in association with Storm Amy is going to fringe into northwestern parts of Spain and Portugal, bringing some wet weather here. Elsewhere, generally dry for most, but some heavy, showery bursts of rain likely across more eastern parts, particularly affecting Greece at times. Otherwise, it's looking largely fine into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show. Well, Dame Sarah Mullally has become the first woman to be named the Archbishop of Canterbury. She is the 106th Archbishop of Canterbury and the first woman, of course, to take the top job, the top bishop role in the Church of England. Her appointment follows the resignation of Justin Welby almost a year ago after his failures in handling an abuse scandal. Well, joining me now is Gavin Ashenden, a former Anglican bishop. Gavin, lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining me. I have to admit, I was watching the speech today. I was here this morning on Britain's Newsroom, and when I was listening to Sarah Mullally's speech, there was a lot of what I would call political buzzwords in there. Now, this is a woman who is what she calls pro-choice. She seems to be somewhat of a feminist. She mentions climate change a lot, and of course she's tweeted about Black Lives Matter quite often. It seems to me like far more of a political appointment than a religious one. Surely we just want an archbishop's going to tell us about Christianity.
Oh, well, I agree with you very strongly. But quite a long time ago, a couple of decades ago, the Church of England embarked upon the project of having a first woman archbishop. And inevitably, she's a paid-up feminist, and all the things you described are part of what she believes in. The difficulty is that increasingly they're different from what Christianity is. And so the Church of England has a crisis in a way. It's got to decide whether it's going to be a good feminist religion or whether it's going to be a Christian church. And it appears to have chosen to go down the feminist route.
Yes, slightly worrying because we are seeing a big uptick in young people who want to go to church. We've seen, obviously, packed churches, I think, last Easter, the Easter gone. Many people are crying out for theology at this point in time, not more politics. It's one of the things driving young people from some research I've seen. They want to hear the Bible. And it seems to me that there is this, there's a word I can't use, but perhaps a misreading or an interpretation of the Bible to a modern audience. Is there anything wrong with that?
No, I think it's a very profound and real instinct. Christianity doesn't work when it's being captured by another ideology. I mean, it's awful, actually. And one of the things that happened over the last 30 or 40 years or so is that Christianity has been increasingly captured by feminism and wokery. There's some really serious issues. Christians distinguished themselves 1,500 years ago, Tom Holland writes, by the fact they wouldn't allow babies to be aborted. They saw that every single individual had an enormous value in the life of God. Well, we're moving into a post-Christian society where abortion is just treated as a matter of course. So the trouble is Dame Sarah Mullally believes profoundly in abortion. She believes also in gay marriage. And she's effectively representing a kind of Christianity that is very much at odds from what Jesus came to bring. And I think the young people have looked at the secular version of Christianity and they found it wanting. They don't want it. I don't think it has a future. I've always said that the Church of England either has to decide to be Christian or a kind of state-sponsored
Gavin, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I'm running out of time on the show, unfortunately. Thank you so much for joining me and giving your views on that. I'm sure more to come. Listen, thank you all very much for joining me. Up next, Matthew Goodwin, Friday Nights with Matt Goodwin. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a fantastic show, and I'll see you all very soon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Storm Amy is crossing the UK as we speak, passing northern Scotland and bringing its strongest and most damaging wind gusts to much of Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland through the night time and into much of Saturday. You can see how tightly packed the isobars are as Storm Amy makes its way across the north of Scotland. Spells of rain pushing through the whole of the UK. For many parts, 50 to 60 miles an hour wind gusts are expected overnight, along with a spell of heavy rain. But it's across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, North and West Wales, where gusts could exceed 70 miles an hour in exposed spots. And especially for the west and north of Scotland overnight, we're looking at wind gusts of 100 miles an hour for the Western Isles and 85 miles an hour for the northeast of Scotland during Saturday as Amy pulls away. That accompanied by heavy rainfall continuing to stream into much of Scotland, with large accumulations expected across the Northwest Highlands in particular. Northern Ireland seeing a wet and windy start, Northern England as well. And for much of the south, we're going to see showers interspersed by brighter spells, but very blustery out there, 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So it's a windy day on Saturday for the whole of the UK, but by this stage, the strongest winds and the biggest impacts are expected across the Northern Isles into parts of Caithness, parts of Aberdeenshire as well. That's where wind gusts could reach 70 to 85 miles an hour. The strong wind from the northwest will feel cold out there, temperatures dipping compared with the last few days, and there'll be frequent showers feeding in. Similar on Sunday, but we're starting to see it calm down at this stage. Amy pulls away, still a strong breeze from the northwest, still feeling on the cold side, still some showery rain around, but nowhere near as unsettled as the next 24 hours. And then into next week, we've got a westerly breeze, but it's not looking quite as stormy.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box